United Athletics Flight 069, taking you from the rolling green-covered hills of Richmond, Kentucky, to the craggier climbs of Cedar City, Utah, and all the football you can handle in between. We're going around the UAC. Please enjoy today's in-flight entertainment, the Rev himself, Dustin Hilton.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Rev, here to talk about the one game from week 0 that we had in the UAC and looking at week 1. Before we get going, I want to give a quick shout out to one of the channel sponsors, Walk On Apparel. I'm not wearing my Walk On Apparel stuff this week because it's Texas. It's still summer, so it's too hot for sleeves. But they have partnered with FCS Fans Nation, where Walk On Apparel makes clothes geared for FCS fans and mid-major fans. 10% of each profit goes back to the school's athletic department, which is pretty cool. And they do have a code that you can use. I do believe it's FCS Fans Nation 10. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. But if you go listen to the FCS, the big show that Matt, Jamie, and Kyler did this week, has the code on there, but it'll give you 10% off of your order. So go get some cool stuff. They've got Chattanooga, Idaho, Utah Tech, and Eastern Washington gear right now, but they supposedly have a couple of new schools dropping here in the next few weeks. I think it'll make some of you Southern Conference fans happy when you see the ones that are coming out. So go check it out when you get a chance. So all right, let's get this going. Let's talk about what happened this week with week 0. Honestly, the week 0 games were kind of, I don't say disappointing, but honestly, a lot more boring than I expected them to be. I was really kind of disappointed in the North Alabama Mercer game. I personally expected more out of Mercer. I don't think the score is a reflection of if North Alabama is improving or not. So I do apologize, UNA fans, but you guys have won 3 games this decade. And I think the score is just a reflection of just the questions that Mercer has versus any improvement that UNA has. But that was 17-7. If you didn't catch that game, a lot of weather delays in that game too, which really just dragged it on. Watching that game and seeing that game, a lot of concerns. One, UNA doesn't really have a quarterback. Noah Walters and TJ Smith were splitting time, but neither one threw over 100 yards. Walters had 65 and Smith had 27. In rushing, UNA's only touchdown did come from TJ Smith on a nice little scramble. But your top rusher for UNA had 49 yards. Top receiver, and that was Jalen Daniels, and then the top receiver was Kobe Warden, who had 37 yards. So just not a great performance by UNA. On the defensive side of the ball, though, Edwin White-Schultz, 14 tackles. He was all over the field. So, great work there. But it just looks like it's going to be a very, very long season for UNA fans. I know you guys are still transitioning up. I know you guys were really great at the D2 level. I think you will get there. It's just not going to be your year, UNA fans. I'm sorry to be a downer or a bearer of bad news, but that's just how it goes sometimes. So we're going to run through the games real quick that we have going on the UAC this week. Also, too, if you're watching this right now live on YouTube, throw some comments on here, especially if you have some good shade. Love to see shade comments because they're fun to answer. Let's start. So we got a couple games Thursday night. I know there's actually a lot of games across FCS Thursday, but we got 2. One of them kind of piques my interest some because I think there may be a chance for maybe not a true scalp, but I think a game where you see the FCS team leading for quite a bit of it. So the first game is the Northern Colorado Bears are traveling to Abilene. They're going to play Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian, man, last year they were 7-4. 2 of their losses did come to CNF Austin. One of them in the weirdest endings you'll ever see in a game. But Keith Patterson has them going the right way. I've mentioned them as a potential dark horse in the conference, and they very well may be. They have a very favorable schedule this year, it looks like, and this is a great way to get going. Northern Colorado is not a good team. They haven't been a good team in a while. They were 3-8 last year. I don't even know what they bring back weapon-wise or what weapons they actually had. I think Abilene Christian is going to take this one at home. I think they're going to take it big, actually. I think they'll win it by 3 scores, at least 21 points. They have something to prove. They wanted to be the WAC champions last year. They had that opportunity, and they lost it to C1F Austin. So that's one you can mark and chalk up for ACU. The game that I think is going to be a lot more interesting than people realize. Southern Utah travels to Tempe and they play Arizona State. Arizona State doesn't have half of their team, and they're doing a self-inflicted bowl ban this year. And their players have basically lost any reason to play this year. Southern Utah, Delane Fitzgerald has got them on the right track. They were sub 500 last year, but they're improving year over year. This could be one of the ones that you see the Thunderbirds come out and maybe smack the Sun Devils around a little bit on the field. It could be one of the ones where if you're just a casual football fan, you're checking the scores at halftime, or if you're Sickos committee or something, and you might look and you might see that Southern Utah's up 3 points or 7 points at half, and folks are probably going to be surprised by that. They're going to doubt just how good Southern Utah is, and they're going to just doubt how bad Arizona State is. So those are the games that we have. I'm sorry, I just saw some comments. Gotta laugh. Thanks, Zach. Looking forward to seeing you in Brookings next weekend. My man, if you haven't checked out the Blue Bloods, you need to go check it out, especially if you like HBCU, but everything else. Zach covers everything in FCS, but man, he does have the sweetest dulcet tones in all of FCS. We got Jesse Royston. How am I able to concentrate on the UAC or UCA is what you put when you got your trips to Brookings on your mind? I'm concentrating this weekend because there's some good games in this conference. There's some opportunities for some scalps. I would say a lot more opportunities here than maybe in the Valley this week, but that's what we'll see. So speaking of a scalp opportunity, let's go into Saturday's games real quick. Eastern Kentucky is traveling to Cincinnati with Parker McKinney at quarterback. Eastern Kentucky did beat Bowling Green last year. Now, I know Bowling Green is nowhere near worth a damn when it comes to FBS football. Probably shouldn't be an FBS team. But tell me what Cincinnati has that makes them unstoppable, because I'm drawing a blank besides their conference affiliation. There's nothing there that makes me think there's nothing that makes you think this is going to be a blowout. This is something that I think Eastern Kentucky is going to come in and just surprise a lot of folks here too as well. Eastern Kentucky is honestly my favorites. Let me rephrase that. They were my favorite to win the conference. I think Central Arkansas probably is going to win the conference, but I think Eastern Kentucky is going to be a playoff team. I know Kyler Neal hates them. I know Kyler Neal thinks they're not worth anything because they lost to Gardner-Webb in the playoffs. I think Eastern Kentucky would beat Eastern Washington. They got a chance to play face to face though. And Zach, exactly. He does with the new head coach. Cincy is absolutely extremely vulnerable, and that's the absolute truth. You don't know what you're getting out of Cincy this year, so it'll be very interesting, to see how that game goes. Another great FCS matchup between the two. We're gonna put this comment right here. Go back on there. Just putting that right there. He's gonna drink a bottle. EK beats him. We're gonna save this. I'm gonna screenshot this because I think it's gonna happen. You're gonna have to do it, and you can do it in front of me. All right. So next game I'm gonna talk about is Austin P. They're traveling up to Carbondale to play Southern Illinois, the Sock Lukey's, if you will, everybody's favorite mascot to root for until their season falls apart. Austin P brings back Mike DeLillo, their quarterback. They bring back a lot of offensive weapons. I think the biggest concern is their defense. But I don't know if, seeing what happened last year with Southern Illinois and how they just collapsed at the end of the year, it makes you wonder, how good are they going to be this year? I've heard some folks mention them as an outlier in the Valley as a playoff team. I don't know if it's going to be them or not. it's going to be because some folks really like Youngstown State. Some folks are leaning on the Fighting Postal Service, known as North Dakota. I don't know if Southern Illinois is a playoff team. It'll be very interesting to see what the Socceroos can do. Austin P, some folks have them in their top 25 ballots. I actually had them in my top 25 ballot in the preseason top 25. I think if the UAC were lucky enough to get 3 teams into the playoffs, they'd be one of the ones for consideration. I don't think they'll finish top 2 though, but you never know. And you never know if a Scotty Walden coach team, that man is one of my favorite coaches in football. If you haven't ever checked out his interviews or anything like that, I highly recommend going to check out Scotty Walden. I think you'll actually fall in love with him. Let's see. So some more comments. Grant, good to see you, buddy. Says since he may not have Fickle, that Satterfield had Louisville playing a bowl game, may not be top 25 this season, but they should be solid. That is a very, very true point. Ron Lowney. Let's see. I'm going to come back to this question because it's actually a very good question. That's exactly right. Scotty screams at the cameras. That's exactly right, Will. And that's why we love Scotty Walden. Let's see. Speaking of Will, this game right here, I don't think this is a chance for a scalp, but it's going to be a fun one to watch. Central Arkansas travels to Stillwater to play Oklahoma State. Central Arkansas, man, last season, I talked about this. A lot of folks have talked about this. Folks are high on them this year because of what they should have been able to do last year. And I don't know if that's the kiss of death or not when it comes to teams, because I feel like folks were high on Stephen F. Austin last year because of what they could have done the year before with the teams they lost to. But with that point, I think Central Arkansas is actually more viable in that regard because of what they have. They have a great quarterback, Will McElvain. They've got a 1-2 punch combo in the backfield with Shadarick Powell and Darius L. They did lose some receivers. They had probably 2 of the best receivers that we've seen in the FCS in quite a while last year, but they still have the weapons. They bring back a lot of their defensive weapons as well, and they've got a great coach in Nathan Brown. It's just, do they shake the Jekyll and Hyde sort of issues that they had last year? Like, can they actually show up completely as a team versus, hey, we're going to show up against SFA, but we're going to lose to Lindenwood 52-49. And I know I keep harping on that game. I know Lindenwood's going to be a lot better than folks give them credit for, but you still lost to Lindenwood 52-49 at home. That's not an acceptable loss for Central Arkansas that I've had last year. And that's why I think some folks are keeping some questions up. So it's really a matter of what you see out of them. I don't think Central Arkansas gets this scalp. If I'm looking at it, I think they keep it close for a while, but I think they end up losing by probably like 21 or so because that loss sucked. You lost to a first year, second year, first year, 52-49 at home. Your defense, I don't know where your defense was. Your defense should have been there. The defense that mollywopped SFA should have been at that game, but they weren't. And that's, sorry. I'm just saying, sorry. Like, I think you guys will be better. Will. Next game, my alma mater, the Harvard of East Texas, the illustrious Stephen F. Austin, travels to Troy, Alabama, play the Trojans. Now, any other year, I would look at this game and go, man, we're playing Troy. This is an opportunity for a scalp, but not this year. And for a couple of reasons. One, Troy did win the Sun Belt last year. And Sun Belt is some folks don't want to admit this, but Sun Belt's the best G5 conference right now at the FBS level. You could argue that it was the AAC, but the AAC lost what made them great to the Big 12. It's not the Mountain West at the moment. It's not Conference USA, who's not even the third best FCS conference at this point. It's the Sun Belt, and Troy was 12-2 last year, and won the Cure Bowl, won the Sun Belt West. Believe won the Sun Belt Championship as well. Like, they're a great team. Brought back a lot of folks. They didn't lose a lot. Now, when we look at Stephen F. Austin, the concern that I have with Stephen F. Austin is last year, Stephen F. Austin was primed to just destroy folks, right? They started off 8th in the top 25. They had Xavier Gibson, which, by the way, congrats to Xavier Gibson. He made the final 53-man roster for the New York Jets. you haven't checked out Hard Knocks on HBO or Max, whatever it's called now, you should check it out because there's some Xavier Gibson love on there. And I'm sure there will be on the episode that comes on tonight. They had all these weapons. They had Trey Self. They had, it was their year. And then the defense decided to not show up. Part of that was because SFA got a whole new defensive staff, and they just didn't meld. Now SFA has a whole new defensive staff again this year. They brought Mike Mutz over from Tulane to be the defensive coordinator. So if SFA's defense can show up with the weapons that they have in Ahmad Murray, Bruce Harmon, Takai Lloyd, then that makes me think that, hey, they'll keep this game close for a while. Offense-wise, when it comes to SFA, as of earlier this afternoon, and this could have been wrong because I've been busy, I hadn't checked everything, but Kobe Carthel had not announced the starting quarterback yet. It was still a battle between Tennessee transfer Brian Maurer, who was a backup last year to Trey Self, and then Preston Weeks, who is a senior this year. Now, Preston Weeks had, I believe, the more accurate arm of the two last year in the little action that they saw, because Trey Self saw most of the action. And so it, be interested to see if Carthel runs a 2 quarterback system the first game to get more of a feel behind it, or if he goes, or if we see who the starter is. My money is on Brian Maurer. If there is a starter, I feel like he's a little bit more polished than Preston Weeks. He does have the experience of playing with Tennessee. Now, taking my bias of SFA out of this, do I think they're going to get a scalp here? Absolutely not. And I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think this is one of those surprise games that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. I think Troy wins this one probably by 21, 28. I wouldn't be surprised by any of that score-wise. But, this will be a good warm-up for SFA because they have Alcorn State, a great rematch of a great game last year. I think Zach from Blue Bloods was at. And then they got Northwestern State in the battle for Chief Caddo in back-to-back weeks. And so this is, I think, a great game for them to, play some good competition. They're not playing an NAIA school and going to hang 98 points on them, anything like that. So I think this is a good way for them to get going the season. Let's see. What do we have? We got old Chattanooga, traveling to Florence to play North Alabama, not Northern Alabama. Brandon Haddock, I know you corrected me on this afterwards, and I do apologize for that. So Chattanooga, North Alabama. Chattanooga's, for those of you who look at other conferences, Chattanooga, there's been discussions as to why folks don't have them as a playoff team in the SoCon. Why folks it makes sense why folks are so high on Furman, why folks are so high on Stanford. Stanford's got one of the best ones, one of the best. Sorry, let me come back to this. Brandon just derailed me, which is fair because I derail his podcast all the time. So he got me. He got me on that one. So good. All right. Anyway, so the thing with Chattanooga is their quarterback has not played a down of college football right now. So when you look at the SoCon, you look at Stanford, who's got one of the best quarterbacks in the FCS, who's going to be a Walter Payton finalist. You've got Furman, FU all the time, who everybody's putting in their top 5. You have Mercer, who folks expected to be a lot more solid with the weapons they had. But of course, Carter Peavy, hadn't played since the weird spring season. And he just, he looked bad. So now you got Chatty, and without them having a tested quarterback, it's really hard to gauge how good they're going to be. And I wonder if after this game, if folks are going to come out and say, wow, Chattanooga is a playoff team, because UNA is that bad. UNA was 1-10 last year, did not have a Division I win, and they've had 3 wins this decade total. So Chatty is probably going to win this one big, and I mean big. 35 points ish, sort of big. So sorry, Brandon Haddock. Sorry, UNA fans. Not a great start to your season, although again, You guys were very successful at the Division II level. Will Seiler knows that very well. In fact, there is video of Will Seiler at a game against UNA when he was like 7. I need to find that clip and bring it on here again. Bring that up because that was a great thing to see last year. So before I go next game, go to a couple comments. One says, drink your milk. Well, I'm not Brendan. I'm not drinking milk, but since it is Tuesday, I am drinking Taco Tuesday beer made by a brewery in Houston called 11 Below. Recommend trying it. It's perfect for the fact that it's 100 degrees right now. So it's a good way to start the game. Start today. H2 status. Now here's the thing. I would love to see UNA play Houston Christian. I think that would be the ultimate sickos game, especially if they played it at Husky Stadium. Outside the CVS, that would be a game I'd want Joe DeLeon and Sean Anderson to have to go sit down and watch, especially because you can't drink on the campus. You can't do any of that. But you can sit in the parking lot at CVS with beach chairs and watch through the fence. And that's probably the most entertainment you're going to get. There. Needed something to drink. That's a good question. Well, I'm going to go to this one because it's more fun than talking about the rest of the games right now. Will Houston Christian beat Arkansas Baptist College? Yes, by 3. That's how bad Houston Christian is. I'm calling it now. They get a 3-point win against the ABCs. It'll be as easy as 1, 2, 3. Well, I mean, just 3 points. Not actually that easy, but I had to go with the Jackson 5 quote there. Let's see. Who else do we have? We only got 2 more games this week. We got Tarleton, the old Texans, the school that ripped off SFA's hand sign, the school that wants to be FBS so bad that they're pumping Uncle A&M for the money to do it. They traveled to Lake Chuck to go play the McNeese Cowboys. Don't say McNeese, it's McNeese. There's been some interesting rumors about McNeese floating around, but we did see today that the Southland agreed to keep doing the basketball tournament in Lake Charles. So it makes you wonder if the other rumors about their movement are actually real rumors. There's fire where that smoke is, or if it's just PR fluff by Heath Schroyer. Could be one of the two. Now, Tarleton's all right. They're meh team. I would think that McNeese has to be a favorite here, but I think it's probably, I haven't looked at the lines. I bet it's probably a pick. I'm a 3-point favorite just because McNeese, sorry. They haven't been good in the past few years. They just haven't. And granted, they've had so many tragedies befall them with Hurricane Laura just destroying their campus back in 2020. They had the year where they were 9-2 and missed the playoffs because their schedule was so weak. So you gotta Tarleton, you got to think that McNeese has an axe to grind. I don't want to use that because they're not lumberjacks, but you got to think that they want to show folks that they're not a bad team, that they've been getting disrespected. And Jamie Williams is top 127, where he has them at 65th, I think, or 67th. He has them as the 3rd best Southland team. And I did say Southland, Brendan, I know you're watching, because there is no defense in that conference. That's why they have finalists every year for the Peyton Award. But you gotta think Tarleton too has a point to prove as well, because when people just think of them, they're not thinking of them in their football prowess. They're thinking of the fact that they're trying to go to Conference USA and are getting shot down every time that they try to. So, Grant says, show me the A in McNeese, though. Listen, they're Cajun, okay? They say it that way. It's just like how they put an X at everything else and a EAU for an O sound. So it's McNeese. Just let it be that way. All right. Brendan, you're absolutely right. There's not much defense in the Southland Conference. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love to see a team go in and absolutely shut down, Incarnate Word. I mean, the only team that in the Southland that actually hung in and beat Incarnate Word was Southeastern Louisiana. And let's be honest, they won that game due to a corner falling down. Other than that, there's not any defense in that conference. It is kind of like watching arena league football, though. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of fun, or maybe watching folks play Madden on rookie and putting up 100 points. Like it's enjoyable football if you like offense, if you like air raid, if you like West Coast, if that's your style of football where you want to see balls aired out, you want to see points, you want to see all that, then the Southland is what you should watch. But if you like, ground and pound, if you want to see an offensive line that can actually block, it's not the conference for you. That would be the Missouri Valley. And let's see. I didn't pick that one. I'm going to give it to, I'm going to give it to Tarleton. I think Tarleton wins by a touchdown. And then last but not least, this is a fun game to do. Utah Tech. Used to be known as Dixie State, changed their name to Utah Tech. They are traveling up to Bozeman to play Montana State. This game interests me for a lot of reasons, and here's why. Utah Tech for the past 2 years has played a super tough schedule. You should go back and go look. They played Weber State. They played Montana. They played South Dakota State. They have played all the top teams in the FCS. They are the true believer of iron sharpens iron. And you know what? They beat SFA last year at SFA's homecoming, which is another one of those things that still chaps my ass this year, the fact that we lost to them. But here's why this game interests me. Next week, is a top 5 matchup between the Bobcats and the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. So to me, this is a trap game because that Montana State is looking ahead to Brookings. Montana State wants to have revenge against for the semifinal game last year on the skating rink. That was Brookings, where their team didn't show up and they just got obliterated. That's what's on their mind. Do you really think, besides getting out the gold uniforms to try to look snazzy, which their gold uniforms are kind of like Wyoming ripoffs, honestly, do you really think they're focusing on Utah Tech? And the answer is no, they're not. I mean, they've got Touchdown or Tommy Malott. They've got a lot. I mean, they've got great weapons. Ron Lowney's here leaving comments. I know that he's, he is a absolute, he's a Montana State fan, probably the biggest Montana State fan I know. But this has the potential to be a trap game. Now, do I think Utah Tech's going to win it? No. But it's going to be a lot closer than people think. It has the potential to be a lot closer because Montana State's got they've got the number 1 team the following week. It makes you wonder too, just how long you see Montana State play their starters in this game. And I don't think it's because of, mollywhopping them or something like that. Gotta wonder if they're gonna set their starters to keep them healthy for the following week. This is the perfect scenario for Utah Tech to come in and shock some folks. So, all right. This is a great point right here. Zach says, can we address the fact that David Walker didn't get the UAC Defensive Player of the Year over Cyrus from Utah Tech? Maybe Webster shows out against Montana State. That is a distinct possibility there, Zach. Again, this is that scenario that if you're an underdog team, if you're coming in the fight, you've been for 2 years, you've been playing top teams. This is your opportunity to show up against the team who probably is not looking fully at you because they're looking further down the block for the bigger kid that they're going to have to face. So Utah Tech, man, if you guys shock Montana State, I will go on to Walk On Apparel, another plug, and buy the rest of your gear that they have. I already have one shirt for Utah Tech. I will buy the rest of it immediately, and I will rep it every show for the rest of the year if you guys can pull this off. So that's my promise to you. Let me go through the comments because we do have a lot of them. Ron Lowney, there he is. He says, not happy. Remember what we did to William & Mary in the quarterfinal game? Yeah, but William & Mary is y'all on wish.com or Temu. Depends on how you want to put it. It's the same thing. They are basically you, but a not as good version of you. They were the great value version of you last year. Okay. that's not a shock that you're able to do that to them. They weren't that good. They weren't. Okay. The CAA was not good last year. I know they got 5 teams into the playoffs, but they did not. They didn't. 4 of them didn't get past second round. The only one who got past second round was the one who was a seed. And then look what happened to them. Weren't that good. Stop. I wish folks would stop basing how good a conference is on how many teams they get into the playoffs, because the CAA was not the best conference last year. At the end of the day, who won? At the end of the day, who got both their teams in the finals? Or even, so not the CAA. Sorry. I don't care what Vegas says. I bet against Vegas all the time and win. Let's see. So what else do we have? I don't hate the CAA, Will. I loathe the CAA. There's a difference. Okay. I think the CAA is trying to become a super conference, but the problem is that they are bringing in some of the worst things you could bring in. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you don't see all the Coca-Cola products, and instead they're running with Pepsi and maybe a Dr. Pepper. Like the Dr. Pepper is your strongest choice. The rest of that conference is Pepsi crap. That is what CAA is. They brought in Bryant. Out of all the schools you could bring in the CAA footprint, you bring in a school that is so bad and so small that their stadium holds 3,000 people. Oh no, that's right. Their stadium holds 3,000 people, and I think they may have only 3,000 students. Like you couldn't go after. Oh man, I don't know. You couldn't go after Fordham, who's in your footprint. You couldn't go after, like there's other schools you could have gone after to be just keep it under the coastal name, and you didn't. You went after Bryant. So Ron, you're not even going to Brookings, so that's an idle threat right there, okay? No, you probably won't. Bryant is not a powerhouse. This is an accurate point. The CAA without JMU is not the same. JMU was the best thing about that conference. JMU, was that conference. No offense to Rhode Island, Villanova. Villanova was great too, but JMU over the past few years was what defined that conference. That was losing JMU was an absolute big loss. I am betting on JMU to beat Virginia. I think everybody who's smart should. Zach says future national champion Brian Bulldogs. Maybe the first step they can do is get a better looking logo. I think these Cardboard Rev will be a butterfly effect. Let's see if Cardboard Rev can handle his liquor. I think that's my bigger concern right there. Let's see. Holy Cross in the CA would have been lit. Yeah, I think so too, actually. Holy Cross, man, look at I mentioned to see if last year they're great. They actually hung in pretty well with South Dakota State in an unfavorable matchup for them. I'm interested to see if after this year, if this is a true sort of, hey, this is a team to look at every year, or if this is a flash in the pan. I hope it's not just a flash in the pan. I hope to see Holy Cross do some success. We get some, have some fun up there in Worcester. Guys named Sully watching the game. Let's see. That's true. The Dolphins don't lie. So yeah, so it'll be an interesting week one. I think. Who's my favorite FCS over FBS pick for the week? It's a great question, especially because I was not on the show with Matt, Jamie, and Kyler. And that actually reminds me, I do have a Rev rant. We're going to keep that up from last year. But first, my pick, FCS over FBS, I think it's the obvious one. Incarnate Word over UTEP. That's such an easy pick. Incarnate Word should be favored. My other pick is Northern Iowa over Iowa State because, UNI looks really damn good. My thing with UNI is if they're going to somehow farley themselves out of the playoffs or farley themselves into like a first round game, and then they have to go to either Fargo or Brookings and get blown out in the second round. Theo Day is going to be a finalist for the Peyton Award. Theo, I don't care what anybody says. That guy is a great quarterback. And I bet you that the Cyclone players are betting on Northern Iowa to win also. So, yeah, so let's see. We got see, Holy Cross would one mascot. Yeah. Let's see. You got UNI. Do I think ETSU would beat Jacksonville State? No. Would it be on brand for Jacksonville State to lose ETSU though? Yes. Very on brand for Jacksonville State to do something dumb like that. I mean, congrats to Jacksonville State for getting their first FBS win this past weekend. But let's be honest, they almost didn't. That game wasn't a beatdown or a blowout. They almost lost that one. So, and do I think that ETSU is better than UTEP? Yeah. Yeah, I do. Let's see. If Holy Cross wins the Patriot again these next 2 years, and there's no hope for the Patriots. Yeah, accurate. That is a very accurate statement right there, Zach. UNI, interesting pick. UNI. I want a rev rant on Jacksonville State. I think I just gave you one. I always say bet on yourself. They're great. I love all these comments, guys. All right, so here's my rev rant. Yeah, you would. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there, Grant. Let's see, what is it? Yeah. All right. Here's my rev rant, and it ties back to the first game I talked about tonight. Stop doing the FCS kickoff in Montgomery, Alabama with teams that nobody gives two shits about. That's my rev rant. I know SFA played in it last year. I know they played Jacksonville State. I also know that stadium was half empty for that game. If you need to, wait until the end of the year and then work out with the schools to see what you can do to get a week 0. I know there's rules behind week 0, but, you know, we used to have North Dakota State playing Montana. We had Sam Houston go up to Shawnee and play Eastern Washington in front of 10,000 fans on that nasty-ass turf that they have there. There were such great games for the FCS kickoff, and then the past 2-3 ones have just been absolute garbage. I know weather impacted the one this year. Zach, you were there. I saw some of your videos. It sounded louder on the field than what you heard on TV, but even then, you could see the stands were empty, and that game was just subpar. You know, let's look at now. Like, look at the games we have coming next year. I mean, let's look ahead, or even better, why not work with schools like South Dakota State and SFA and do a Jax versus Jax FCS kickoff, right? I mean, South Dakota State would obliterate them, but it's, you know, it still has something on there. Or maybe do South Dakota State Incarnate Word to start the season off. Like, do something better, put more entertainment there, because that game was awful, and get it out of that dump known as the Crampton Bowl. I know it's historic, but it's a dump. Get it out of Montgomery. Nobody wants to go sit in Montgomery late August and swamp ass heat and watch mediocre football. Yeah, see, field tips 125 at kickoff, right? That's just not fun. Montgomery is a crap hole. Town I've been to a few times, and Montgomery sucks. When SFA played Jacksonville State last year, you know, Brandon Owens asked me if I was going. Grant asked me if I was going, and my response to both was hell no, because I didn't want to sit there and sweat my ass off in a crap stadium. And so, please, if some power that be watches this game, move it elsewhere. Get it out of the Crampton Bowl. Go play it at Findlay and Chattanooga. At least better. Go play it in I don't know. Go play it in Terre Haute. I mean, yes, Indiana State Stadium's god awful, but at least it's, you know, be better than freaking Crampton Bowl. Okay. Let's see. Mercer sucks. Discuss. I don't think Mercer sucks. I just think they have a quarterback that hadn't played in 2 years. I think you're going to see more out of him as he gets through the season. He has the weapons to help him out with Harper and I forgot the Ty. Crap, I forgot his name. But his wide receiving crew has weapons. He just has to shake the dust off. I know spring season he only averaged 130 something yards passing, but I think he has better weapons around him now. So I wouldn't say Mercer sucks, but I don't know if I would say Mercer is gonna finish better than 7-4. Let's see. Ease up on my state now, but they play in Alabama. They moved to the new UAB Stadium, Birmingham. That would probably be even more empty than the Crampton Bowl was. That'd look worse. It's like someone who said, "Hey, let's take the national championship and play it at AT&T Stadium." And I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" First of all, the only reason the national championship fills up is because it has been schools that have rabid fan bases that can travel. The year that we get another we'll say Villanova versus Eastern Washington, you're going to have 7,000 people in a 20,000 seat stadium. So let's keep perspective on these things. The stadium doesn't need to be in a doesn't need to be massive. It just needs to be in a better spot. Do it in a soccer stadium that fits the size of the crowd you expect. I think because it's not even that it's the bad stadium part of it. It's the perception of this game. This game is on national television on the first Saturday where you're not competing against really much in the way. Your competition at the time was Notre Dame versus Navy, and that game was over as soon as the first pint of Guinness was poured that day. So there was nothing there for a while, and that's the perception of FCS that you have is you have small time football, and that's not what we want. Let's see. Carson Wentz is still. Oh, okay. Go on. Let's see. Play at Alabama State Stadium across town. Dude, that stadium is sick. I don't care what anybody says. Alabama State Stadium. SWAC stadiums for the most part. I mean, they've got some fun ones. Not looking at you though, Mississippi Valley State. Sorry. You have the best name stadium out of with Rice Totten, but yeah. Okay. My attendance guess for this game is I'm gonna say 10,000, maybe. I think it's going to be announced at higher, but I don't think it's going to clear that. Ticket sales are slow for this game if you haven't seen it. And here's why. NDSU fans are coming back to reality. I think Matt Frazee spoke about this the best, but they're not the powerhouse that they were a few years ago. Look at their quarterback. And I say quarterback with quotes because Cam Miller's not a quarterback. I think this game would have been more well attended had it been a few years ago when Eastern Washington was just top notch. They're coming off a bad year. I think that diminishes the ticket sales. So I don't think you're going to see more than 10,000. I think SDSU Drake is going to look better with the game being at Target Field, but doing it at US Bank Stadium was a bad plan. That was just a money grab that completely failed. How good do you think Stanford will be this year? Okay, so Stanford, they have the potential to be a semifinal team. It's just that they don't collapse in the playoffs. That's what it is. Or it depends on also to they get a favorable match. They've got a great offense. I'm interested to see what all their defense can do, but they have the potential to be a semifinal team, I think. All right, and what do we have here? Rana, do you want to answer that question? It says, will House Wright and the other coach be suspended at all for a game, do you think? Let's see. We can see what Ron says to that. Do you mean your wife, Chad? Because from what I assume by photos, she's looking good. If you mean that team based out of Huntsville, if they can keep it within 20 against BYU, then that'll be a very promising sort of thing. I just, I don't know. They have so many players who use their COVID years of redshirts and all that. So they could be good, but then of course, they basically gave up last year. So you don't really have a metric I don't have a metric to base them off of. Like, I am not actively rooting. No, let me lie. I am actively, or not lie. I'm actively rooting against Sam Houston, but I do wish them the best at FBS. I don't think they were as prepared for it as Jacksonville State was. I still stand by that. I think they're very house poor, and it's also funny is they don't have a home game. I think they have one home game in the first 4 weeks this year, and I don't think they actually have really like any in October either. So, and I think they only have one home actually in a Huntsville non-conference game, also over the next 2 years. So, I know Jamie said that we wish our teams that move up to FBS the best. Nah, not Sam. I'm going to keep that. See, my hot take, NDSU will have no chance at the FCS national title. Cam Miller, quarterback. I agree with you. I don't even think NDSU has a chance at winning the Missouri Valley Conference. I think it's going to go SDSU 1, UNI 2, NDSU 3, and NDSU's playing on the road in the second round. They'll get a home game the first round because they'll bid, but they're not winning the conference. Let's see. UAC or SLC top 8 versus top 8. Look, the top two teams in the Southland are better than the UACs because Incarnate Word and Southeastern Louisiana are both great teams. After that, though, there is a steep drop off. It's like Hans Gruber at the end of Die Hard. I mean, you plummet to the bottom when you get to the rest of the conference. And so when you look at that, I mean, the parity in the UAC is much better than the Southland. And if you look at Jamie's 1 through 127 rating, 7 UAC teams are in the top 60. And then you've got the third Southland team at 65 and McNeese. So I would take overall the United's top 8 against the Southland's top 8, but I would take the Southland's top 2 teams, top 2 teams first. Let's see, who else do we have? Questions. Over under NDSU losses 2.5. I think that's a good number. I think UCA can beat them. I think UNI can beat them. I think SDSU will beat them. I'm going to take the over. I'm putting them at 3. I'm putting them at 8-3 this year. That's my call right there. 8-3. It's on record. So you can come at me, Bison fans, but that's what I'm calling. I bet Farley can throw the ball better than Cam Miller. Grant asked UNI too, who's a bigger handicap, Cam Miller or Farley. If you make Cam Miller throw, Cam Miller is a bigger handicap. I jokingly said that the over-under on his pass attempts against Eastern Washington would be 3. I wasn't fully joking. He has no business throwing the ball. Who gets the 2 seed this year? This is a good question too, because I think SCSU is going to get a run through, get number 1. So then it kind of leaves it up. Will Sanford do enough to get the number 2 seed? Will Incarnate Word blow through their schedule? You know, I know they play North American, whatever they are, high school for visual arts, whatever they're playing, but they do have a potential FBS win in UTEP. They could easily steamroll the rest of their schedule. You could look at Incarnate Word as a potential 2 seed. I don't think it's going to be a Big Sky. I don't think it's going to be Montana State or Montana or Idaho. I think it's going to be somebody from a more southern sort of conference. And so I think it's UNI or Sanford, depending on how how it goes. How many beers in Brookings? I won't, UAC, don't worry. But for those USDSU fans who I will see in Brookings, I did through Chad, so shout out Chad, get a couple of cases of ears up for the tailgate. So come by and have a beer. Let's see. I didn't put Houston. First of all, Houston Baptist doesn't exist as actor Houston Christian. Or did I put them in my top McNeese, my top 25? No, because I know how to vote and I know how bad the Southland Conference is. Now, I'd say that slightly trolling Sean. I know what Sean was looking at. He likes what he's seeing there with the new coach. And I mean, maybe Houston Christian does have a new coach and a new staff that will help them become more successful. The problem is their facilities suck. So how are you getting athletes in? In the year that you had Bailey Zappi as your quarterback, they went 5-7 with that sort of talent they had. Like, I don't know how you recruit a player into a stadium that looks like Husky Stadium. And if you haven't seen Husky Stadium, I highly recommend Googling it. Houston Christian is in Sharpstown, which is a dump in Houston. Like, it's just hard to get quality athletes there, but maybe they can turn it around. A video incoming. Yep, I hope I make hype videos. It was fun. As the teams that can beat them, or I don't think Eastern Washington is going to beat them. I think Eastern Washington's better. I think Eastern Washington, the only way they can beat them is if they force them to throw. But if NDSU does what they do, which is just run and run and run and run and run and run, they're going to wear down the Eastern Washington defense. Eastern Washington's not as big as they were in previous years. So the line play, I think, is going to be tougher for them. So I don't think that one is. I think, honestly, your other 4, though, are pretty accurate, with SCSU beating them, UNI beating them, UND, and potential Central Arkansas. My concern for South Dakota State University is they have UNI coming on Hobo Day. And I don't want to besmirch South Dakota State at all, but that is a concern for me, because that seems like one of those South Dakota stumbles that we used to see. What SFA game am I looking forward to the most this year? Man, I look forward to when we play Abilene Christian. That is becoming a rivalry. I look forward to when we play Northwest State. because that is a rivalry game for Chief Caddo. I look forward to when we play Central Arkansas, though. I think Central Arkansas is going to absolutely boat race us. You know, and it's in Conway. It's on those ugly ass stripes, and so that's just, you know, I'm sure Will is going to be happy. But you know, so, and I can tell by the reactions I struck a nerve here. Sorry, absolutely, you need to lock up your guys. Ariel, here's the problem though. You guys pushed for Joe and Sean to come, and last time Joe and Sean came to Brookings, didn't end very well for you when it got to the postseason. So, I mean, I think you kind of just did that. So yes, Chad, I am going to wear my SFA bibs up there. So you will see me in purple and white bibs, but I do have a special shirt for the blackout game to keep into the blackout theme, but I will be wearing my purple and white bibs. So sorry, I saw Will's. Well done. We'll get my stripes came out your mouth. Well done. And Ron, yeah, it is. The Inferno Field I can tolerate. Like, it's the stripes. I would say the stripes look better now. They kind of darken the purple, but when that first came out, like, it looked like a cheap tie you got at Walmart because you forgot a tie for a wedding. Like, it's not a good not a good looking. No, I'm bringing on the purple and white bibs. Yeah, so purple and white, but I will have a very special black shirt for the game. So, all right, guys, this went 51 minutes. I'm kind of surprised. I think the conversation was fun, so I really appreciate you guys coming on and commenting. You know, I think next week I'm going to have a guest. If you guys follow him on Twitter, he's a FCS stats voter. You might have seen him at the Burger Popper. Omar's probably going to come join me and talk for a little bit. We got to finalize that, but I would be interested to hear his perspective on the FCS. So I'm looking forward to having him next week. I may have some other guests that I'm still kind of working on. I would love if Will Seiler could come on and come talk shop, but I know he's busy getting his getting his MD so he can save the world. And also to shout out to to Brandon Owens. I know he's not watching tonight, but you know, he's got a gig that he really likes, working as a musical director for a high school band. And you know, I know it's a job he's wanted. Let's see, the Inferno Field's horrible. Yes, I agree. Joe and Sean need a Butterburger. I need a Butterburger because I've never had one. I've never been to Culver's. I'm going to fix that. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Football is back. Week 1 is here. Plenty of games to watch starting on Thursday. I know South Dakota State fans are looking forward to their 2-hour tailgate before their game. But you know, enjoy the weekend. I'm going to try to record next Tuesday. It's kind of odd with my work travel stuff and other travel. But again, thank you for watching. Make sure, if you haven't liked and subscribed to the FCS Fans Nation page, go ahead, do it. You know, also, if you haven't followed them on Twitter, or you haven't followed Jackrabbit Illustrated or their show, if you haven't followed the Fight on Montana guys, if you haven't followed Cocky Nation, because we still do have Cocky Nation, if you haven't followed the Jay and Keith show, all those, make sure you follow. Make sure you check all the shows out. And if there's any show I missed, you know, I didn't miss the B team. I said Jackrabbit Illustrated, but that all ties together. But you know, make sure you watch and support them. Also, Zach is still on here, so watch, follow, subscribe to the Blue Bloods as well. Hack City, I'll shout them out too. Watch them. You know, all the FCS content is great that we have. That's it. Jim Poppin has said it is time to go, and I do listen to Jim when he says it's time. So you guys have a great week. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.